Oh my God.
Got it. Hit the
Beware,
thing.
people
Hitting
of
the
Earth.
thing.
We are live.
Welcome to Earl and the Idiot, the show that gives you the answers you need to take your business to the next level. With Earl Flormata, one of Vancouver's most sought-after business and marketing consultants, author
This
of
guy.
Business Engine Optimization, consultant to over 60 successful businesses, an all-around evil marketing genius with a combined total of more than $70 million worth of sales to his credit. And some idiot. Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Oh, you're right. That is a good intro, isn't it?
I do
Best
like
part of
that
the show.
very much.
Everybody can just tune out now. You've heard the intro. You can pack it in for the day. The best
That's it.
part's
That's it.
already
That's the
happened.
best part of the whole show. Here we
Although
go.
it is, we do have an outro, which is almost as good. So maybe that's why people watch the whole show.
It's just for the bookends. Just for the
They just
bookends.
want to hear the outro. It's embarrassing. Hello, Earl Flormata, evil marketing genius and all around genius of geniusness. How's it going?
Not bad. Not bad. I'm liking my new hat. So I misplaced my old military looking hat, and so I had to buy a new military looking hat. So there you go.
That hat would pair well with a samurai sword, I think.
I believe so. It has been. Here's a crazy tangent. I want one of those electric unicycle things, just so I can get a shot of me on that thing with a suit with a katana, just because that's what I want for one of my profile pictures. So
That'd be good. You could just make an AI. You don't have to do anything anymore.
This one I have to do authentically because I have to learn how to ride one of those unicycle things. So I used to drive a motorcycle, so it's like having one of those things. I've heard people giving up their motorcycle, and getting one of those things instead. And those things look like an absolute rush. So like I'd have to wear a helmet of some sort if I'm putting around that thing, long term. But just for the picture, katana, the hat, maybe a suit, and then electric unicycle. So
those things are wild. Yeah, I see they haul ass, and you see the guys are always wearing like full crash helmet with face visor and like elbow pads and everything. It's like
those things go so fast if you crash with that thing, man.
Yeah, and you're basically face forward with nothing in between you and whatever you're going to run into. So
hope you got a good helmet. Yeah.
All right. But yeah, the hat, I'm telling you that's going to be the new trend of hats. I invented the trend of like sort of pale red shorts.
Pale red. I don't know if I could pull that off.
Just look. I like last year, I was like, I want some cooler shorts. I don't want just plain old khaki cargo shorts. Everyone got those. And in my head, I went, what kind of shorts should I get? And I was like, maybe like a nice sort of red, not like bright red, but like a kind of pale red. And then I went around and I found them. I was like, perfect. And then this year I went to bust them out again. I turned around, everybody's wearing them.
Red is the new black? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Exactly.
Pale red is the new black.
Pale red, yeah. Like everybody. We'll keep an eye out for it. You'll see them everywhere. I also, for the record, I want to get this now out on the podcast for the record. I invented cargo pants. Not invented, but I went to a military surplus store, like camouflage downtown. That store called Camouflage. I went in there and they had military pants with the big pockets on them, the cargo pockets. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. That's badass. I'm gonna wear those. I wore them to school, and everybody made fun of me for it. Like this was in high school, like grade 9 or 10 or something. Everyone made fun of me. Hey, what are these stupid pockets for? Like, you're so dumb. And then now look everywhere. I mean, I guess there's not everywhere now, but for a little while they were.
Well, no one made fun of me because I was packing the slingshot everywhere I went. And that pocket was
the Menace?
specifically for that slingshot. So there you go.
But here's what I'm guessing. If I know anything about Earl, it wasn't like carved out of a stick with a little rubber band. And we're talking like tactical slingshot with like armrest and a sight and the whole bit.
I did have one of those, but that was too big for the pocket. So it was just a regular carved out one. But we got so good at using slingshots. So first things first, we started making our own bullets. So my dad sees me like, the typical thing as a child, you got a little elastic band and you got folded up pieces of paper and you flick it at your brother, right? And it's just like, so I'm doing this with my brother and sister. My dad looks at us and goes, hey, wait. And I'm like, oh shit, we're in trouble. He goes, no, you're doing it wrong. He takes the bullet, unravels it. He's like, no, you roll them. You don't fold them, you roll them. I'm like, what? So he rolls it, folds it, taps it on the table, and it sounds like a rock.
Oh my
He's
God.
like, okay, you got 3 seconds, run. I'm like, oh crap. And so since then, we started making our own paper bullet things. And yeah, we just had the slingshot in the pocket. And we got so good at firing these things. You could throw a Coke can, like literally, like you could take a Coke can in the air,
Yeah.
and we can hit it multiple times on the way down. That's kind of horrifying.
Like
So
multiple times, like you fire multiple from your own slingshot.
yeah. So we throw it in the air,
Like
it
you
goes
could
ping,
shoot
we
it,
would reload,
load it, and shoot it.
ping, reload, ping. And it's like if we couldn't hit it at least 2 or 3 times, we couldn't go home. So that was our game, because I grew up poor, right? So we didn't have any money. So I'm like, okay, well, we have to entertain ourselves somehow. All right, skill-based slingshot shots, trick shots. Let's go.
Sounds like a good game to me. And not to continue on this tangent too far, but when you think about it, the slingshot is kind of the ultimate post-apocalyptic weapon, isn't it? Literally anything can be a bullet.
Pretty much.
You got a bow and arrow. That's all great till you lose your arrows, and you got to develop the skill of building arrows.
Right.
Slingshot.
I'm not a Fletcher,
whatever.
so no, I cannot make arrows. But
Exactly.
yeah.
But that'll be big business in the post-apocalyptic world. So learn the skills of Fletcher now,
Yes.
and then you'll be trading for animal skins and dried meat in no time.
Trade arrows for food. There you go.
Boy, we are far afield, aren't we? But I just brought it back around to business. You want someone to invest in your business of fletching.
Yes.
Do you have any news? Do you have any, before we get into our topic today about investment? Do you have any exciting business news from the world of Earl and business?
We're putting together a summit, so that should be fun. So
A summit.
yeah. Grabbing a bunch of speakers, some sponsors and everything, putting it together, assembling Humpty Dumpty and just putting on a good old show. So we're finding like 30 speakers who want to come on stage. It'll be all pre-recorded, so we set it all up, but it's all just around the topic that we talk about, which is business and business growth. So that's something fun that I'm assembling now, which should be a blast to put together.
Are you inviting ChatGPT to speak at your summit?
That would be a thing, eh? We would just grab ChatGPT, throw it through some things, and then grab it through like 11 Labs or something with a voice and make an avatar and just have at her, right?
Yeah. Can you imagine
other speaker, the AI overlord,
right? Put the voice on and just be like, "Hey, ChatGPT, give me a tight 30 on business optimization or something." It's like, okay, done.
And while you're at it, choose a voice for yourself and make it happen. So
yeah, whatever voice you think will be most influential and effective in capturing your audience.
There you go.
Oh my God. All right. Well, that's
I
cool.
choose sexy European women voice. Just the accent. Right. There you go.
That's your jam. Is it? I don't know. I feel like it's got to be like a Grant Cardone kind of as the ultimate sort of intense business guy.
Intense voice, business. That's a very American structure though. So it's just like, all right. Good. So it caters to the American audience, but I don't know why. It's just the British female voice. I think that's kind of universal. I don't know.
That's more of, it feels more of like a futuristic type, the future of business.
Well, it's an AI, right?
Like from Sweden or something.
Yeah. So
yeah, that'd be perfect.
At least it sounds nice while the robots eat us. So
yeah, got to take our pleasures where we can here. well, they made a robot that literally eats people. Did you see that?
I saw that. That's terrifying.
It's a for those who don't know, it's like a combat robot that can fuel itself with corpses.
Yeah.
So basically it kills people and then eats the bodies to fuel itself to kill the next person.
Like, you want Terminators? That's things worse than the Terminator, because last I watched the movies, they didn't eat us physically. So
yeah, exactly. So there was Terminator just do its job and on its way. It doesn't defile your corpse afterwards for its own benefit. Oh my God, we are way off. All right, so let's bring it back around. So today we are discussing the subject of, the topic we asked AI, please write up a multi-points on key points around what business owners should consider when looking for funding or investors. So with that, I got to put my virtual background on here.
Okay, I got to see the virtual background.
I'm really enjoying just coming up with a concept and getting Mid-Journey to create a personalized, straight out of my imagination picture for me, and it really did a great job this time. I'm gonna start organizing into files now. It takes a lot.
Are you using the free Mid-Journey or the paid Mid-Journey? I'm curious.
Paid Mid-Journey.
Fancy.
I didn't even know there was a free one.
Well, people just keep signing up for new accounts.
Oh, like on a trial?
Yeah.
It's like $17 or something. It'd be more. It's not worth my time to keep creating new accounts.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Ready? Ta-da.
Oh, very nice. They're all just happy playing cards with their tuxedos.
They're not playing cards. That's money. They're chucking money around. See, there's a big pile of money.
Yeah. See that.
Oh, my shirt disappeared. Headless.
What was the prompt that created the men with money in cards?
Yeah, the prompt was I can't remember exactly. Something along the lines of a group of fat, wealthy plutocrats wearing top hats and tuxedos in a room, sitting in chairs in a room and laughing while holding money.
Only you. Only you.
This is what I think of when I think of investing.
Excellent.
But as we discussed beforehand, this is a topic where I'm really out of my depth. I'm definitely going to be able to play the role of an idiot on this one because I have never involved myself in business financing in any way. I've been an employee level in a business, or then I went straight into running a marketing company,
solopreneur,
which
right?
Solopreneur, and a marketing company requires absolutely no startup capital whatsoever, except maybe like $100 for the hosting of your website or something. So I have absolutely no idea about this. But Earl tells me, dear listener, Earl swears he's an idiot. No, Earl swears he's an expert on this subject. So
I'd say intermediate.
Experts in
I'd say
financing.
it's intermediate level. I've done about 20 million in raising for capital for companies. So it's not giant, but it's not small. So it's like, not bad.
I guess the question is not how much you've raised, but how much success was then generated with the money raised. If you could raise a lot of money just by being a con man, it doesn't mean you're good at investing. So
that's
the
true.
question is how much success did people have? Although it's still an impressive stat.
We raised a bunch of money. This is part and parcel of that project that did the 100 million for charity. So I would count it as a success, I guess. But then the company's no longer around. I think the founders ended up like just infighting or whatever. But if they made $100 million for charity, that's good enough.
Yeah.
I would chalk
that sounds good to me. I'm no wealthy plutocrat, but 5xing my investment sounds pretty good.
There you go.
All right, so let's see. What gives us an introduction? I think we've already done it. Well, you get the idea. So we're talking about the idea of you've got a business idea, a running business, and you want investment. I guess those are two different things, eh? Trying to expand a business or trying to.
It completely differentiates based on the stage of what you're at the business, right? Like if you have an idea on a napkin and you look a little crazy and you're asking people for money, the chances of success are slim to none, because that happens to me a lot. I get a lot of randos with a lot of ideas on a napkin. And like, do you have a business plan for this? How is this going to make money? And they're like, oh yeah, it's just going to make money. It's a great idea. I'm like, that doesn't help me, right? So there's that where you're a crazy guy with a napkin, and then there's the next step where it's like, okay, well, we have a working idea with a prototype of some sort to or we have a full-fledged business plan and we know how to spend our next 10 million that we're going to intake. So there's steps and procedures and stuff in between each one, from crazy napkin to crazy business plan, right? So there you go. So it depends where you're at, but yeah.
And then you've also got a situation where a business is up and running and been running for years or a couple of years or whatever, and you want to expand it, and then you need investment.
Yeah, expansion or operational capital, all those sorts of things. Again, different plays, right? But each of those are very different audience types, very different strategies, very different structures for what they need for funding.
Okay, but that's what we're talking about. Those three things. And before we go on, I just got to point out, I don't know if you can see it, but this guy's head merges into his hat right here.
It does.
If you look at it from afar, you're like, it's great, but you zoom in and you see this. There's this guy here. His eyes don't line up, and this guy's hat and head are one entity. So something a bit weird going on. All right,
it's not perfect yet. So thank God for the corpse eating robot.
Right. They're still working the kinks out on the corpse eating robot, but they'll have that perfected soon. Don't worry.
I hope so.
All right, let's dive right into it. Number one. Define your funding needs. I guess we just talked about that. Before approaching investors, clearly define your funding requirements. Determine how much capital you need and for what specific purposes, such as product development, marketing, or scaling operations. Those are the three things we just said. We just said those three things. We're geniuses. We're as smart as AI. Having a well-defined funding plan helps you convey your needs effectively to potential investors and demonstrates your strategic thinking. Can you add anything to that, or is that perfect?
So defining your funding needs, you got to know how much you want, what you're using it for, and have a good plan for it, depending on the nature of the investor you're going after, right? Because if you're going after like sophisticated investors, they're actually going to read your plan. If you're going after not like non-sophisticated investors, there's a reason why there's rules about who's allowed to invest in your company and who's not, right? So there are rules and regulations as to who you can take money from, right? So there's a rule called an accredited investor, right? And this is why this is how come you can't just go running around fleecing grandmothers saying that you have the best Bitcoin ever since sliced bread and they should invest in this because think about your grandchildren. So
hang on. So you're telling me that like here's an idiot moment. You're telling me there's an actual rule saying I can't approach, like if I wanted people to invest in my company, I can't just approach randos and ask for money?
Nope. Not allowed, depending on the jurisdiction where you live. There's a thing called an accredited investor where those guys have the ruling is we're going to protect you because you're too stupid to invest your money by yourself. Unless you have so much money that you've garnered, you must have enough brains to then therefore invest said money because you have lots of it, right? So therefore, as long as you don't bet the farm on everything, you should be okay and not end up living under a bridge. So there are rules and regulations as to whom you're allowed to approach, but depending on whom you're approaching, depends on how you're assembling Humpty Dumpty, right? If you're using like a crowdfunding source, those don't necessarily have to be smart people with money. It's just some guy with money. But then there's rules as to how much they're allowed to put in, right? Like a crowdfunding thing, you're only allowed to raise X, and every single person's only allowed to put a maximum capacity of whatever the ruling is. So that way they're not out their entire life savings, right? So that way you can't ruin that many people if you have a terrible business idea and it catches on fire and explodes, right? So
if I went to just a friend of mine that I knew had some money lying around, I said, hey, why don't you put up some money to expand my marketing company?
That's different. So there's the first round is called friends, family, and fools, right?
Okay.
So which
F
are
round.
all the same in the F category: friends, family, fool. If you pull it from a friend or a family member, or I guess also fools, then it's fine because they're investing because they know you, right? And hopefully they like you and they trust you. If that's the case, then that's fine. Like if you spend your own mother's money and you bust it, you answer it to your mother, right? So that's one thing. Versus if I get absolute strangers and abject strangers and pitch them and say, hey, you should invest in this thing. That's a different ruling and jurisdiction, right? So friend, families, and fools round is completely different. If you convince your family members and your friends to invest in you, and they're dumb enough to do so, then all the more power to you.
Oh my goodness. So if I rented a room at a hotel, a showroom at a hotel and invited a bunch of strangers and told them about this amazing investment opportunity, I could be in trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. There you go. The government crushing our spirits once again.
And protecting the people who don't know what to do with their money, right? You don't
saving
want
us from ourselves.
RRSP. So there you go.
All right. But getting back to the point here, so define your funding needs. So when you approach an investor, different levels of sophistication are going to want different levels of plan.
You're also looking for smart money. That's something else that the AI is not going to talk about. But smart money means that you're taking money from somebody who understands something about your sector, right? So that way, when you get stuck or you hit a hurdle or you run into something, it's their money at risk. So, but because they're knowledgeable about that arena, you can come back to them for advice, saying, hey, this is the problem what we're facing right now. Do you have any ideas to help us get around this? Because if you just get dumb money, so dumb money is just some guy with a giant bag of money going, oh, I like your idea, let's do it, right? And so versus smart money, where it's like this person's actually helped in your sector or in and around your sector, and they can actually help you besides monetary backing, right? Not just capital, but also just knowledge, right? So that's also important too. Like getting smart investors is typically better because then you can run to them for help and they're going to know something about your space.
All right. And But so you should do a bunch of work before you approach investors. Don't just do it willy-nilly.
You got to give them a plan of what you're going to spend the money on, and you got to give them some sort of plan of when are they going to see their money back and how much money are they going to make for rolling the dice with you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's go on to number 2. Know your investor profile. Different investors have varying preferences and objectives. We were just talking about this. Research and understand the types of investors that align with your business model, industry, and growth stage. Consider venture capital firms, angel investors, crowdfunding platforms, or even government grants and loans. Knowing your investor profile enables you to tailor your pitch and approach the right funding sources.
So first thing on that, I've been through all of them. So venture capital, angel, crowdfunding. If you do not claim all the government grants and loans that are available to you, that are sometimes even non-repayable, that you just get it and the government just gives you money just to grow a business to make it go. If you do not get all of those things as an angel investor or as a venture capitalist investor, I won't invest in you, right? Because you're not, if you as a company are not, I guess, just flexible enough to go find all the free money sources first, exhaust all of those before going the venture capital route, that means you haven't progressed as far as you could have gone, or you're not as resourceful as you could be, right? Like part of the whole venture capital or angel investment structure is that I like you because you as a person are resourceful, right? Not only is it the idea, but you're also hardworking, right? The idea alone by itself is not strong enough for the investment. It's the person behind the idea that you're also investing in. Like you're betting on that horse, right? So, knowing your investor profile, venture capital typically is looking for expansion. They want you to grow the business. They want you to already be making money. Angel investing could be an idea on a napkin, like we talked about earlier. Crowdfunding.
So break that down for the idiots in the crowd like myself. What's the difference between venture capital and angel investors?
Typically, angels come in earlier on. So angels are like the first round, beyond. So friends, families, and fools is first, right? So just, hey, cousin, I got an idea. Want to fund it? That's one. And then after that, it becomes angel. So angel investors come in after that fact. And then the angels get bought out usually in the round when the VCs come in. So venture capitalists come in afterwards. So angel is usually, depending on the type of angel investor, but it's usually pre-revenue. So before you're making any money, you go to the angels. That's why they're called angels, right? And then after you start making money, to make more money, you get the venture capitalists to come in and then kind of expand it and grow it from there. Depending on the nature of your product or your project, you could also go to crowdfunding, right? And have people pre-order your thing before it exists, right? That's where Kickstarter, Indiegogo, all those other platforms come in.
Yeah. So angel investors are a little bit more thrill-seeking, kind of like taking a chance on an idea.
Well, it's much more
venture
risky.
Capitalists.
Yeah, it's much more risky in the earlier stages.
Venture capitalists are just sort of these guys. These are venture capitalists, and they've just got money. They want to put certain places that'll make them more money. They don't want to take a ton of risk. There's some risk, not a ton of risk, right? There's
always going to be risk in any of the stages, right? And then eventually what happens is that you end up taking the thing public if that's the way you want to go, and it's a publicly traded company. And then that's where the VCs made their money on that exit, right? So there you go. Right. So the angels get bought up by the venture capitalists, and the venture capitalists get bought up by the public markets. Usually, I mean, this is like a basic strategy. That works out pretty well. But before that, you've got government grants. Before that, you've got family, right? And then, depending if your product is a customer-facing thing or whatever, then you have, the Kickstarters of the world, the crowdfundings. Yeah, I guess before that, you got your own money, don't you? Some people also just go to the bank of Visa and they max all their credit cards until they're down to the hilt, and then ta-da, we have our prototype. Yeah. Let's go. Hopefully. Yeah, I remember noticing that when I first started watching Dragon's Den years ago. No one just shows up there and we're like, oh, I got this great idea. It'll be really neat. No, it happens. I've seen I think the producers pick the crazy ones just for the sheer shock factor sometimes. Yeah. And they're like, it'll be cool if I do this. And they're like, what? Where's your thing? Like, what? And it's literally an idea. Not even a prototype. Yeah, exactly. Was that, remember that lady with the suction cup for the wall for the shower? Yeah.
Remember we talked about that? My favorite product ever.
Yes. It's very specific. Very specific.
What so let's get a little specific here. What awareness do you have of government grants that are available to businesses out there? Like, I never even occurred to me to check on that. So
There's
obviously
a-
the angels and the VCs would not have invested with me because I hadn't done that part of the
Well, because
piece
it's just seeing to see how scrappy you are, right? So
Yeah.
there are actually grants right now that help people move to the digital age, right? So if they have an old ass website and they want to add e-commerce to it, I think there's like a $15,000 grant right now that exists for business owners. So, you, Dan, the marketing guy, could help the business owners get this grant, get $15,000, and then they give it to you to make it happen, right? So there's grants
I'm
out there
writing this down. Hang on.
for transferring people over to e-com, right? Or for setting somebody up with a payment gateway so that I can book a session with them, right? So let's say I want to go to a salon or a spa or whatever, right? If they don't have that online yet, then there's a grant that helps them get there.
All right. Any others?
There's tons. There's
tons.
just thousands upon thousands. So there's grants that give you credits back based on research and science being done, right? So if you're doing science and research experimental stuff, there's grants for that. There's grants for you want to look at minorities, you want to look at women, you want to look at Black, Indigenous, people of color, all that kind of stuff. There's grants for all sorts of different things. There's grants for newcomers to a country to reestablish or to establish a new business. There's grants for there's a gajillion of these things. Like there's literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands. So there's so many you can't count them all, and they just keep popping up. So
we'll have to do a show on it. We'll research the top 10 grants for business owners. We'll do another show.
Sure, I can do that.
In Canada. All right. So here that we were talking about before, prepare a compelling business plan. Actually, hang on. Yeah, okay. Prepare a compelling business plan. A comprehensive and well-crafted business plan is essential when seeking funding. Clearly articulate your business model, target market, competitive advantage, and growth strategy. Include financial projections, highlighting revenue forecasts, profitability, and return on investment. A solid business plan demonstrates your commitment, vision, and potential for success, attracting investor interest.
And long story short of it, the business plan is a stupid test, right? So are you stupid, right? Because if you don't have a plan and I give you a big sack of money and I have no idea what you're going to do with it or how you're going to spend it, or is it going to be intelligent, that is a very, very high risk plateau. It's like, ooh, well, we're just going to give this guy a sack of money and see what he does.
Yeah. Seems like a nice fella.
Yeah. But if they show you, they have a little more pluck, right? Here is the plan. I know the plan isn't worth anything, right? Because who knows what's going to change, right? What was it? Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. That's how business works, right? So you're going to come up with this plan, may or may not work, but it shows that you've thought things through and you've got some foresight and you know kind of where the money's going to go, as opposed to, well, I've always wanted a Lambo, so that's a marketing cost, right? I could get in the Lambo, make some videos, and there's the marketing, right?
Just get a magnetic sign on the side of the Lambo, and now we're advertising.
That's right. So yeah. So it just goes to show the investors and the people who are believing in you that you have a plan of action that you're going to kind of take on, and they're not just throwing a bet into the wind and seeing what happens.
All right. So what should you know when you're writing a business plan? Like what's got to be included in there?
So there's a lot of business plan templates out there that you can just kind of grab and just buy. There's a lot of business plan writing experts who can also help you. There's people who specifically write business plans that get funded. And so there's experts out there who write these things, and because of their network, can also introduce you to potential funders. So there's a benefit to meeting these folks who write the business plans for you. There's software that you can just answer a bunch of questions. It'll ask you a bunch of questions, you answer a bunch of questions, and it poops out a business plan. So there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat here. But the practice of making the business plan wasn't meant to be something that was written in stone. It was meant to could you practice some thinking forward, backward, lateral, And do you know what's going to happen? Do you know what the pitfalls are? And obviously, no one's got a magic crystal ball, so you can't see all the pitfalls. But at least if you thought your way through it, if you were to encounter one of these said pitfalls, you'd have some sort of rudimentary plan to work your way through it, right? As opposed to, piss in the wind, see what happens.
Yeah. All right. So let's look at number 4. Build relationships and network. This is our favorite thing on boats. This is all done on boats. Networking is a valuable tool for connecting with potential investors. Attend industry events, conferences, and pitch competitions. Oh, I want to go to a pitch competition. Where's a pitch? When's there a pitch competition?
We're actually going to be holding one on the boat.
Oh, no kidding.
So yeah, we have an upcoming project where we're going to do like a mini Dragon's Den type style thingy. There's going to be there's some people who are on the boat that have had like 8-9 figure exits, and they're looking for their next thing to go do. So some of those guys have a big sack of money and they want to figure out what their next adventure is. They'll watch these pitch competitions and then they'll approach you. The guy who owns and operates Vested, it's a company that helps prep you for taking your company public. Right. Sometimes he joins us on the boat cruises. So yeah, it depends on who's there. But I mean, pitch competitions, they're everywhere, right? So the precursors to the Shark Tank, the precursors to Dragon's Den, the precursors to pitching in front of an angel network. There's tons of these everywhere, and they happen multiple times a month.
I don't have anything good to pitch. I don't need anything. I just want the thrill of the pitch.
Well, just watch. So you just go there and watch the pitches so you can get accustomed to how they're pitching and what they're doing. And it's almost as important to not just watch the pitch, but watch the reaction from the other side of the equation and seeing which ones reel the investors in and might have them salivating over, yeah, I want a piece of this deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the fun of Dragon's Den, isn't it?
Yep.
Is going to these pitch meetings, is that the equivalent of like going to a farm league hockey team versus watching the NHL on TV?
Depends on the level of the pitch. There's angel pitches, there's VC pitches, there's friends, families, and fools pitches, right? So yeah, if you're watching the first round, this person hasn't practiced, they're not polished yet, they can't really tell their story, da 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 da. By the time you're at VC round, you better be good because the competition is fierce and and plentiful. So usually if you're watching the VC pitches, those guys are really good at what they're doing. If you're watching an angel pitch, they're good but less polished, right? If you're watching some guy trying to pitch his family why they should buy a bunch of lottery tickets, it's going to be very clumsy. So.
All right. So I was halfway through that sentence. Attend industry events, conferences, and pitch competitions where you can meet investors and expand your professional network. Join entrepreneurship communities and engage in relevant online platforms. Building relationships with investors and other entrepreneurs increases your visibility and opens doors to funding opportunities.
Yeah, there's Facebook groups for funding. There are a bunch of different it's like entire funding groups. AngelList is one of them. So AngelList, you can find potential investors, potential partners. If you're looking for if you're like the marketing sales guy, and you need a technical officer, you might find your CTO there, right? So AngelList is a good one. Just look up AngelList and the AngelList competitors, and you'll find lists of these things.
So if you're a person with money who likes to invest that money, you probably get really tired of hearing from people all the time.
Back in the day, I would get 10 to 30 pitches a month for people who wanted money from me, or for me to raise money for them on their behalf. Just straight deal flow, right? And you see every deal under the sun after a while. And so, yeah, networking is super key to that, because once you're known in the network, people trust you.
Right. So you can actually have a more in-depth conversation rather than just kind of cap in hand begging someone for their time.
There's a formulaic procedure to most of these things, just as there is for every sales type of script, right? And so typically there's things that investors are always looking for, which we'll get to it, I'm sure, at a further point. But yeah, it's just making sure you tick all the boxes first, so that when they do ask you, you're prepared and you're not caught with your pants around your ankles.
All right. Yeah, it's always amazing to me when you go to these networking events, somebody, says a few words to another person, suddenly you're like, oh, actually, that sounds cool. And then it's like this whole world opens up to you, this whole product.
Here's a giant bag of money. Would you like my friends with other giant bags of money? Yes, please. Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah. Amazing. And it's really, you just got to get out there, a lot of people sitting around their houses with great ideas never get anything done.
It's not the idea, it's the execution.
Yeah. That always cracks me up. I see this now, but people with some idea, I've got this great idea. Oh, what's your idea? Oh, I can't tell you. I have to sign an NDA first before I tell you my idea. It's like, come on, dude. If I can take your idea and do it better than you, it was never really your idea, was it? Like you didn't really have great possession of that idea if someone else could like destroy you just
Well,
because
that's
you
one of
told
the
them what your
questions
idea
that we
was.
ask as a due diligence piece. Like, what are the barriers to entry, right? If any monkey with $10 can enter the same market and then boot you out of it, and I just gave you $1 million, that's horrifying to me as an investor.
Yeah. I always notice that with Dragon's Den, they always ask, what's your actual like copyright protection or a patent or whatever, like
Yeah. Do
what
you have
degree of-
intellectual property protection on the thing that you've created, or can someone willy-nilly just copy it tomorrow?
Yeah. Amazon likes to do that.
Yeah. And they also do that on Kickstarters too, right? People see stuff on a Kickstarter, someone in manufacturing goes, I can make that, and they make it. Right? That happens.
That stuff. Have you ever known anyone to successfully sue someone who takes an idea like that, or the idea is too
No,
vague?
because they end up
or-
making it in a different jurisdiction where there is no rule.
Oh, I see. Where you
Right.
probably weren't going to sell anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
Or they make it in that jurisdiction and then sell it in the one in your jurisdiction, and then you do care.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Somehow I thought there was only like 5 steps to today's episode, but there's much more, so we should probably truck along here.
Sure. Absolutely.
Number 6, be transparent and manage expectations. Transparency and open communication are vital when dealing with investors. Be honest about your business's strengths, weaknesses, and risks. Address potential challenges and how you plan to mitigate them. Managing investor expectations is crucial to building trust and maintaining a strong investor relationship over the long term. It's pretty straightforward.
So that's pretty straightforward. We missed one, showcasing traction and milestones. It was just before it, but both of these things kind of go hand in hand anyways. So you just because someone didn't invest in you today doesn't mean they don't want to invest in you tomorrow, right? So just because they didn't invest in the first round doesn't mean that they might not be interested in you in second and third and fourth round, right? So that being said, just because some investor said no, what a nice little trick is to be able to say, are you interested, just not now? Would you like me to keep you updated as to how things are going? And some of them are like, yes, absolutely. And when you keep them updated, so I'm gonna put these two together: be transparent, manage expectations, and show traction and milestones. When you said this is the plan A, B, C, D, and you approach them the first time and you're on level 0, when you complete stage A, let them know. When you complete stage B, let them know. All of a sudden, stage C rolls around and they're like, hey, we want to invest now. We like this. You're making really good traction. We have some connections for you. Let's go. Right?
Yeah. Okay, good. So yeah, they might see, okay, this is a real investment. They just weren't sure about you before because maybe they didn't know you from a hole
The
in the
idea
ground.
might be sound, but the character that they know you as might not be strong enough yet, and they might not know, right? So they're testing your mettle, seeing if you're strong enough to do it.
I like that line. So could you be interested in the future? You want me to keep you updated? Then you're just sending out emails. Hey, I just did this thing, just did that thing. Building that trust, building that relationship.
But it's also a sales test. Some sales aren't made on the first go round. Some sales are made on the 5th, 10th, 12th, 15th touch. Keeping them, managing expectations, being transparent, and showing that you're moving the needle builds those expectations and builds that transparency and builds that trust factor in you.
Nice. All right, let's charge ahead. Understand investor due diligence. Investors conduct thorough due diligence to assess the viability and potential of your business, anticipate the information they might request, such as financial statements, legal documentation, intellectual property rights, which we talked about, and market research. Being well prepared and responsive during due diligence enhances your credibility and expedites the investment process. So
they're going to look into you. They're going to look you up. They're going to figure who you are as a person, who do you hang out with, who you're known.
Are they going to look at my Facebook page?
Some of them do.
Oh no, do I have to take down all my silly memes and stuff, or they'll think I'm not
I
serious?
don't, and I still get funding.
Yeah, that's
I,
true.
I have lots of
You're,
inappropriate memes, right?
you post more silly memes than I do.
Yeah. So, it's something cool, something inspirational, something funny than a dog trying to screw a chicken. It's just like, that I find that freakingly hilarious. So it's just like the thing is, if you do it properly, right? On the due diligence portion, right? They get to know you as a person, really, right? So, and the funny thing is, depending on the culture type, is how they do due diligence, right? North Americans, they check your credit score, they check your previous business things, they check your LinkedIn account, blah blah blah. In Asia, they don't do any of those things. They just take you drinking and make you go karaoke with them until they understand that they think that they know your character, and then they do business with you. So it's very different depending on where you're at. Like it was such a culture shock. I know I'm Filipino and Asian, but I haven't done business there until I did. And then when they take you drinking and singing karaoke, it's like, oh, this is part of the business process. If you don't go along with them, they don't know, like, and trust you. Now they won't do business with you.
That's scary. I can't drink anymore. I don't know. I hit a certain age and I was just like, I feel so horrible after I drink. I just can't do it. I don't think I could do business over there.
So no, they and if you don't take their drink offers, it's a quote unquote insult slap to the face. It's just like, oh, okay,
man.
fine. So there you go.
I was worried if I ever traveled to like Eastern Europe that I'm going to bump into some mobster who's going to take a liking to me and then be like, all right, come on, let's go drink. And I'll be like, okay. And then,
the machine, right?
The machine, exactly. Can't believe they're making a movie out of that.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. So this goes into like, this is the other side of preparing your business plan is like when you prepare your business plan, you should understand what the investor is going to be looking for in his due diligence of you.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Oh, I guess I said something smart there because you just agreed with me.
You did indeed.
All right. Negotiate terms and equity. When negotiating funding terms, consider not only the financial aspects, but also the alignment of values, expertise, and long-term goals. Evaluate the equity or ownership stake investors' requests and weigh it against the value they bring beyond capital. Strive for fair and mutually beneficial agreements that aligns with your growth plans and protects your business's interests. You look very thoughtful. Got something intelligent to say here?
Well, it depends, because this says it only just says negotiate terms and equity. There's more than equity. You can also do a debt, right? So, because equity means they own a piece of your company, debt means you're just borrowing money from them. Some people don't do equity, they just do debt, right? So, and then there's multiple ways to raise these capital bits, right? So there's multiple methodologies to raise against debt. There's multiple methodologies to raise against equity. There's convertible debentures where you can convert from one to the other. Maybe it starts off as debt and turns into equity, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can raise the capital, and there's a lot of creativity that you can build around these things, right? So as an example, let's pretend I'm going to raise money to do a merger and acquisition of buying another company that's in my sector. But what if I did a deal with the previous owner? And I say that, well, why don't I give you your terms? You work here a little longer so you can kind of guide us through the acquisition of this thing. And I'll give you more than you're asking for, but then you do this part and you help us out here, right? And so, they're more than happy to do that sometimes. So again, it's not just equity in terms. Sometimes it's debt. Sometimes it's a joint venture. Sometimes it's a restructure of the business. Sometimes it's a rent to own business. So I'll just pay you this much until we own the damn thing. There's a million ways to do this. And that's why I'm saying, like, there's some missing bits here. So AI didn't quite cover all of it.
Here's kind of a dumb question that just popped into my head. Would it be, is it effective? Is it acceptable? Is it classy to just go into a networking event and be like, hey, what's your deal? Well, I got this great idea. I'm looking for venture capital. Just tell everyone you're looking for venture capital. And then hopefully eventually, yeah.
Totally cool. There's lots of events where that's literally the only thing that happens, right? So there's publicly traded mining events where everybody's looking for more shareholders, right? And that's all that's everyone looking for. So people just looking there for shopping around, looking for other mining deals that they can put into, blah blah blah, whatever, right? So, and that's totally fine. Like, I'm at the stage in my business where we're seeking new capital. I'm entertaining all sources. Do you have any connections for me? Right. And the answer could potentially also just be as simple as, have you gone to get a loan from your bank yet? Some people haven't.
Mhm. Must be fun to be walking around with that kind of money and just be like, yeah, that sounds like fun. Let's give that thing a try and just chuck your money at it.
It is, but it's also dangerous as hell. Like in the angel space, you're praying that like 1 out of 10 of your projects make it, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, the trick would be, I assume like when you gamble, you gamble with money you're willing to lose, and if you win money, you put half in your pocket. Like just go in there with money you're willing to lose. It's it's more fun than gambling. It's more interesting than gambling, and might result in some product that's actually beneficial to the world.
yeah,
Gambling
it
never
depends
does.
on the nature of the business. Like like certain businesses in certain places have higher framework failure rates than others, right?
Higher what?
Higher framework of failure rate, right?
What does that mean?
Like, so if I build a business where I'm going to build a brand new tech, doesn't exist yet, we're doing research, we don't know if it'll work, we've never done it before, no one's ever done it before, right? The likelihood of it succeeding is slim to none, because there's no path for them to follow, there's nothing to trailblaze, right? It's all just, let's take a guess and pray to God this works, right? The
Yeah.
other side of the equation is something boring, where it's like, hey, we're just going to buy every strip club in Florida, and because we're buying all the strip clubs, we only need one security firm, one scheduling software, and one HR director. That's a roll-up play, right? Much safer, much more boring, except for the strip club component. I made that for fun. But like, if it's a roll-up play, you're doing bringing together a bunch of like businesses, and it costs you less money overall to manage them, because you're all sharing the same resources, right? If you were, let's go grab another tangent. Let's go. I'm a real estate investor. The property management firm, the more doors you have to manage under the property management firm, the more efficient it is, right? So again, it just depends. There's a million ways to make $1 million, and there's lots of different ways to pathways to get there.
All right. We should probably bring this in for a landing. So the last point in this podcast suggestion from AI seems quite sensible. Seek expert advice. Engage experienced professionals like lawyers, accountants, or business consultants who specialize in funding and investments. They can provide valuable guidance throughout the funding process, help you navigate legal and financial complexities, and ensure you make informed decisions that protect your business. Don't consult idiots, consult experts.
And don't necessarily just purely consult AI. Use AI as a sounding board, but don't make it the discussion partner, right?
Did you? I think we talked about this. AI. Someone who went to court with a case prepared by AI, and it had just invented a case that didn't even exist and cited it
and
as precedent.
That got thrown out real hard. So yeah, seeking expert advice. I mean, use AI as a sounding board, but it shouldn't be your only discussion partner. Use other people as a sounding board, but you should not just rely completely on one other person. I mean, you should be bouncing ideas off of multiple people, right? Because then you're getting multiple angles, you're getting multiple points of view, right? And not one single person knows everything, because not one single person has done everything, right? And just because I raised $20 million in this sector and that sector doesn't mean I know anything about sector C, D, or E, because I might have not had any experience in those things. So it's a completely different thing. When someone says, yes, I've raised money, it's very important to know in what sector, right? Because real estate is very different from fintech, right? Which is very different from health, right? So those three are, they're exciting, but oh my gosh, they're very different beasts, right? So finding people who raise money in different sectors, find people who raised money in your sector, and then find people who invested in other people in your sector. And those are the people you want to get the information from, because they've done it, right? As opposed to, well, like my educated guess is X. No, you gotta find people who know what they're doing.
Nice.
Which brings us
good. So I think brings us to drum roll, please.
Here we go. Hold on. Am I sharing audio? I am indeed. So here you go.
Hack of the week.
Hack of the week. There is nothing new under the sun. Okay, so study other people's investor decks from previously successfully funded large-scale projects in your niche market.
Oh my God.
If someone else got funded, Facebook, Airbnb, Tesla.
Where do you find their investor decks?
Their investor decks will be floating around the investment community because they had to pitch people. So remember, one of the other steps was, hey, network. If you're not networking, then there's no way in hell you'll get these other investor decks. right? Then once you've got them, deconstruct it and see where you can make riffs and plays off of it, right? And there's a good resource. If you just Google the words, the greatest sales deck I've ever seen, there's an article on Medium that actually deconstructs like a high profile investor deck from guys that raised billions of dollars. There's another group, so Guy Kawasaki, he's like internet royalty. I think he's like the king of Twitter back in the day. And he was one of the Apple original employees. Now he's an angel investor. He has this really cool model called the 10-20-30 for a presentation for presenting to investors. He shows you exactly what investors want in 10 slides, 20 minutes, and 30-point font so that us old people can read it. So there you go. So 10-20-30 model and the greatest sales deck I've ever seen. Those two put together. I've made amalgamations of those two. And I've just recently actually got commitment of about 5 million from investors for a project I'm working on using those two models and all the stuff we just talked about above. So there you go.
Cool. That sounds simple.
Still works.
Just steal other people's ideas. Hooray.
There's nothing new under the sun. So just put a spin on everything.
All right. I love it. And before we go, I want to see if I can recreate the guy's face over my shoulder here.
That's a great. Hold on. Stay still. I'll take a screenshot of that. Bam. There you go. That's magical.
I can't see how I look because I'm squinting my eyes to do it.
I'm posting it in our chat right now. You'll enjoy this.
Hopefully I don't have enough chin for that, which is good. I'm working on it though.
There you go. I just posted it in our WhatsApp chat. You'll enjoy this. There you go. You look like the guy.
All right. I guess that's everything. Let's play us out. Oh, yeah, that is good. Oh my god.
There you go. All right,
I'll
play us out. Here you go.
Thanks for listening to Earl and the Idiot. We hope you learned something you can take action on this week. For more information or to contact the show, visit earlandtheidiot.com. And until next time, remember what Shakespeare said. The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Earl. Thank you, ChatGPT. Always thank the AI. And have a good week, everybody.
Thank you, Dan. Talk later.